Hello. I'm actually gonna make. Sorry, we're having some. I'm having some technical, you know, not issues, but challenges. I am
When are we
technically
not?
challenged, so. Okay. Hello and welcome. I
When
think
are
I
we
feel like
not having technical issues?
huh?
When are we not having technical
I mean,
issues?
that's fair. I don't know that I'm fully on Callie's level, but I feel like I'm coming close.
Yeah,
Just
that's fair.
like I feel like we're constantly uh you know vying for scuff the title of scuff queen. um okay, I feel like every time I play this game we do the daily theme, but that's because the daily theme always sounds really interesting. I don't
What is
know what today's is.
I mean, you can just hit on a daily theme and then if you don't like it, you can
Yeah, that's
just
fair.
can leave.
It's called Twin Islands,
Yeah,
and I don't know what that's supposed to be.
click it. Click it. Let's go.
Okay, let's go. All right. From personal experience to okay. All right. I sure. Theme suggestion Emberlocks.
Hmm.
And I don't know if
Okay.
that's
I
who
mean,
suggested it. Okay, let's go. Sure.
that seems
All right.
kind of basic.
Oh yeah. Okay. It's just like just one. Interesting.
Um, Okay. Well, if you want to go back out, that's fair.
Look, there's little sheepy with a.
I love the sheep.
I love them. I love that you can
Oh,
pet
it's got
them.
the little floaty. It's
Yeah.
so cute.
Oh, look, there's a duck. Two ducks. Hi, ducks.
I love this game.
It's very cute. Okay. I guess I will stay here. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know.
You could just do a different.
Yeah, I don't know. Can I just build a tower and the water will let me? It will let me do that.
Well, there you go.
Fat. Can I make you? Can I make you taller? Oh, it's a water tower.
Oh.
Okay. So today is a little bit different than our normal book club stream because we're gonna also be talking about not books. Um, so we'll start with the book. So we're gonna talk about the
We don't
Odyssey.
even know. We don't even know that much about the book.
Yeah, I haven't ever read this book, and I don't know that I ever will unless I find a translation that I really like. Um, which I mean, who knows? Uh, but it's the Odyssey. Which, so here's my thing with the Odyssey, too. Like the actual written down, like the first time it was ever written down, was likely centuries after it had been told for the first time. Um, and so like it probably naturally changed from what it originally started as, which I also think poses a very interesting I guess precedent in that if we are, you know, when stories were told orally, um they would change every time they were told pretty much
Mm-hmm.
because this is this is not just like a short story, right? This is an epic poem. It is so long, and for a person to tell it the exact same way every single time they tell it is extremely unlikely. And then
Mm.
for it to be passed to another, like passed down to another person, and that person tell it, it's again very, very unlikely that they'll tell it exactly the same way that they heard it. um and it wasn't until there was a point where it was like actually written down that there's any kind of consistency with that story. And the thing that I find super interesting about that is that we are now, like, we're now over 2,000 years removed from that. Um, and so when we are retelling the story, even though, like, we do have a written record of it, there are changes that are happening. And I think it's really interesting to see, like, how it changes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so we are going to talk about one of the, like, I guess adaptation is a better word, um, of Epic, or of the Odyssey. It is,
Mm.
spoiler alert, Epic the musical. If you haven't listened to it, you should. It's amazing. Um, it's fantastic. But
It's so
anyway,
good.
um, so let's really quick, we're going to read through the Wikipedia synopsis of the Odyssey. And as always,
It's
when we read from Wikipedia, we do have to take this with a grain of salt.
grain of salt. It's not gonna be good.
It's,
I know that.
it's the best I've got, because I'm not going to sit down and read the Odyssey right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, like, I just feel like it's not going to be. It's not that it's not gonna be accurate. It's like you're not gonna get anything but like a very how shall I say, old view of
Uh-huh.
things, you know. And that's what I meant more of that. That I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's not gonna
that's
it's not
fair.
gonna be a great, whether it's not gonna be accurate, and it's also just going to be filled like the way that I think it's gonna be described is probably gonna be kind of gross.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, I just looked at this and it's nighttime and there's a bunch of fireflies and I think it's really pretty.
Hey, yo, that's
Okay,
cute.
so Wikipedia's entry for the Odyssey. Books 1 through 4 are exposition. The Odyssey begins after the end of the 10-year Trojan War, the subject of the Iliad, which is another epic poem, from which Odysseus, also known in the Latin variant Ulysses, we're not going to talk about the Latin variant, that's unimportant, king of Ithaca, has still not returned because he angered Poseidon, the god of the sea. Odysseus' son Telemachus is about 20 years old and sharing his absent father's house on the island of Ithaca with his mother,
Hello, friend.
Penelope. Hello. His mother, Penelope, and the suitors of Penelope, a crowd of 108 boisterous young men who each aim to persuade Penelope for her hand in marriage, all the while reveling in the king's palace and eating up his wealth.
Yeah.
Um, so many. Okay. Anyway, Odysseus' protectress, the
Yes,
goddess Athena,
108.
huh?
Why are there so many?
Yeah, uh, there's okay. I think that there's a
That's the
couple
same amount.
interesting things
Is it? That's wild.
in regards to the suitors. Um, First of all, why is there 108? That's so many. It's so many. Like, because the way that it's kind of like framed is that it is like all of the eligible noblemen of Ithaca.
Damn, I didn't realize that Pokemon was connected to
Damn, that's crazy.
the lore connects.
Odysseus killed all the suitors and they became Spiritomb. Thank you.
Thanks.
Um, but yeah, so 108 is wild. I feel like there are not that many. Also, I have several questions about the demographics of the suitors, because when we first like are introduced to them, it's been 20 years since Penelope or since Odysseus left. But the thing is the Trojan War was 10 years, right? So like assumedly there Odysseus was assumed to be alive for at least like I don't know 12 of those years, because like if you figure like the war lasted 10 years, they're going to assume he's still alive unless someone comes back and says, "Oh no, he died." Um and then like give it like maybe 2 years to get home. I don't know the distance between Troy and Ithaca, and I don't know how long it would normally take them to get home. But I'm going to just be gracious and give it 10 years. So that means that for 8 years, suitors have just been piling into this house. But that also means, because the thing is, it's like when Odysseus left 20 years ago, I'm assuming he was like a young man, because he was king. So let's be real generous and say 18. And Penelope, again, given the time period, again, we'll be real generous. We'll say she's 16. She had a kid. So it's now 20 years later. She's 36. If we're going on this timeline. So all these suitors that have been waiting around for 8 years, have they introduced, has it always been 108? Did more people slowly come and say like, "Hey, I want to throw my hat in the ring"? Like, how old are they? Are these like 18-year-olds that are coming to try to marry a 36-year-old woman? Like, what is the demographic of these suitors? I'm so curious. Also, let's acknowledge the fact that in ancient Greece, a widow's choice of new husband would not determine the like inheritance of his wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like Telemachus should be king of Ithaca.
Yeah.
Telemachus should be like the man of the house, the owner of all this wealth. He is king of Ithaca.
But we have no king.
And
Yep.
I've seen things that have like talked about this, in that like in order for like the stakes to be heightened for Odysseus, his inheritance has to be tied to Penelope's choice. Because then like if she remarries, he's not just losing her, he's losing literally everything.
Yeah.
But let's continue with the synopsis. Yes, the plot. The oh so important plot we must uphold. Okay. Odysseus' protectress, the goddess Athena, asks Zeus, king of the gods, to finally allow Odysseus to return home when Poseidon is absent from Mount Olympus. Disguised as a chieftain named Menetes, Athena visits Telemachus to urge him to search for news of his father. He offers her hospitality, and they observe the suitors dining rowdily while Phemius, the bard, performs a narrative poem for them. That night, Athena, disguised as Telemachus, finds a ship and crew for the true prince. The next morning, Telemachus calls an assembly of citizens of Ithaca to discuss what should be done with the insolent suitors, who then scoff at Telemachus. Accompanied by Athena, now disguised as Mentor, the son of Odysseus departs for the Greek mainland to the household of Nestor, most venerable of the Greek warriors at Troy, who resides in Pylos after the war.
Menetes.
I mean, these suitors are the opposite of a tease. In fact, I want to kill them. These men, Death. From there, Telemachus rides to Sparta, accompanied by Nestor's son, where he finds Menelaus and Helen, who are now reconciled. Both Helen and Menelaus also say that they returned to Sparta after a long voyage by way of Egypt. There, on the island of Pharos, Menelaus encountered the old sea god Proteus, who tells him that Odysseus was a captive of the nymph Calypso.
Mm.
Huh?
No, someone at the front door.
Oh,
Think
it
our
might be
food
our
is here.
pizza.
Our pizza. I'll have,
I can go grab it. Hold on.
okay. Yeah, they'd be out there. Oh,
Hello, I have returned.
what is happening with your?
Huh? Oh, yeah. When I like move around, my model like freaks out.
Yo, you were frozen. The face that it made was so fucking funny.
But pizza is here. So,
Hell yeah. But we're talking about Epic,
yes.
so that's gonna have to wait.
Hold on, sorry. I'm just texting the
Good.
boy. Okay. So, where were we? Yes. Odysseus was a captive of the nymph Calypso.
Ooh, twinsies. Get the din-dins.
Nice. Okay. Telemachus learns the fate of Menelaus's brother Agamemnon, king of Mycenae and leader of the Greeks at Troy. He was murdered on his return home by his wife Clytemnestra and her lover Aegisthus. I don't know how to pronounce that one.
None of that.
The story briefly shifts to the suitors, who have only just realized that Telemachus is gone. Angry, they formulate a plan to ambush his ship and kill him as he sails back home. Penelope overhears their plot and worries for her son's safety. So, we've established that the suitors are the worst. And Telemachus is running around trying to find his dad, who is captive of Calypso. In the course of Odysseus...
This.
Listen, okay, so in high school, I took Latin. And our Latin club, we had a Latin club at our high school. And I was a part of it and did like a think like mathletes, but for Latin. And my specialty was Greek mythology, or like overall mythology, but like a lot of Latin mythology is also Greek mythology. And so a lot of these like character, like, you know, like the story of like Agamemnon and Clytemnestra, I am familiar with. Or like Menelaus and Helen, like I'm familiar with the stories, and so most of them I know how to say the names, but that one just, it's throwing me off. I don't know, man. Okay, so where were we?
By the way, do you want me to keep reading so you can play?
Sure.
Where did you stop?
The escape of the Phoenicians. or Phaeacians?
Fa- fa- Have you ever? Did you ever?
Did you? Would you? Have you? I did.
My favorite. Oh my god! Listen, when I when I read that, I thought I said Shrek hero.
But yes, my favorite Shrek hero is Donkey.
um. Okay, so in the course of Odysseus' 7 years as captive of Calypso on the island Ogygia,
Yes.
is that how you pronounce it?
Mhm.
All right, hell yeah, got one. She has fallen deeply in love with him, even though he spurns her offers of immortality as her husband and still mourns for home. She is ordered to release him by the messenger god Hermes, who has been sent by Zeus in response to Athena's plea. I don't understand why we couldn't just have one person. Just why do we have to go through this whole
No, because
like
Hermes is
no?
the messenger god. So anytime that there's anything that they need to tell anyone,
You don't.
they got to get Hermes to do it.
I guess. Odysseus builds a raft and is given clothing, food, and drink by Calypso. When Poseidon learns that Odysseus has escaped, he wrecks the raft. Love how they just write this. But helped by a veil given by the sea nymph Ino, Odysseus swims ashore on Cherry, the
Sure.
island of the uh, Phaeacians. Man, this is weep. Well, this is a fun time. Naked and exhausted, he hides in a pile of leaves and falls asleep. Okay, naked
Sure.
and exhausted, he just falls asleep in a pile of leaves. Okay.
Yep.
The next morning, awakened by a girl's laughter, he sings the young Nausicaa, who has gone to the seashore with her maids after Athena told her in a dream to do so. He appeals for help. She encourages him to seek the hospitality of her parents, um, Arete and Alcinous. Um, he promises to provide him a ship to return him home without knowing the identity of Odysseus. He remains for several days. Odysseus asks the blind singer Demodocus to tell the story of the Trojan horse, a stratagem in which Odysseus had played a leading role. Unable to hide his emotions as he relieves the episode, Odysseus at last reveals his identity. He then tells the story of his return from Troy. Okay, I feel like that's a weird, like, weird, unnecessary, like,
I feel
stop.
like there's okay, so I think one of the things that we have to remember again is that like this story was originally like told
Mm-hmm.
like thinking like, you know, sitting around a campfire like telling
Yeah,
stories.
yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
what this story was at the beginning. And
yeah.
so I feel like there are all of these like framing devices built into the story,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of allows people it allows them to be like, okay, here's our like here's where we stop, and then we start the new story. You know what I mean? Of like it's like
Yeah.
one we stop one night at him being like, "Hey, can you tell the story of a return from Troy?" And then the next night we
No.
go into the return from Troy, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I get it. But also, yeah, I agree. I like the musical version better.
Agreed.
Like, all of the changes are so much better. Like,
They're so
as
good.
we're
So
reading
good.
this, like, as we're reading the synopsis, I am like, I don't think I want to read this. Like, do I want to know, like, the differences? Like, I know most of the differences that, like, he made and, like, changed and stuff. But, like, I would, like, and as much as I want to know that, I don't want to read this. This does not appeal to me at all.
That's fair. I do again really want to find like a feminist translation,
Yeah.
because like I'm also curious, you know, like obviously this synopsis is based on English translations, and a lot of
Hmm.
English translations were probably done at a time when misogyny was, you know, very prevalent. I mean, it still is, but like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and so I feel like there may be like differences in the actual like thing, you know? Like if you read like a better translation, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's fair. All right, I'm gonna try and get. We're gonna just get through this because I want to get to talking about the good
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Odysseus recounts his story to the Phaeacians after a failed raid against the. God damn, they're just gonna keep giving me kick. Psych. Is it Psychones or Kikones?
I would probably say that as Sissones.
Sissones? I don't know. When I click on it, there's like Romanized with like a K, but I don't know exactly. So, anyways,
Oh,
Odysseus and his 12 ships were driven off course by storms. Odysseus visited the lotus eaters who gave his men their fruit, which caused them to forget their homecoming. Odysseus had to drag them back to the ship by force. Afterwards, he and his men landed on a lush, uninhabited island near the land of the Cyclopses. These men entered the cave of Polyphemus, where they found all the cheeses and meats they desired. Upon returning to his cave, Polyphemus sealed the entrance with a massive boulder and proceeded to eat Odysseus's men. Odysseus devised an escape plan in which he, identifying himself as nobody, plied Polyphemus with the wine and blinded him with a wooden stake. When Polyphemus cried out, his neighbors left after Polyphemus claimed that nobody had attacked him. Odysseus and his men finally escaped the cave by hiding on the underbellies of the sheep as they were let out of the cave. After they escaped, however, Odysseus taunted Polyphemus and revealed himself dumb. The Cyclops prayed to his father Poseidon, asking him to curse Odysseus to wander for 10 years. After the escape, Aeolus gave Odysseus a leather bag containing all the winds except the west wind, a gift that should have ensured a safe return home. Just as Ithaca came into sight, the sailors opened the bag while Odysseus slept, thinking it contained gold. The winds flew out and the storm drove the ships back the way they had come. Aeolus, recognizing that Odysseus had drawn the ire of the gods, refused to further assist him. After the cannibalistic Laestrygonians destroyed all the ships except his own, Odysseus sailed on and reached the island of Aea, home of witch goddess Circe. She turned half of his men into swine, which with drugged cheese and wine. Hermes warned Odysseus about Circe and gave Odysseus an herb called moly. Jesus, why did that like my brain just stopped working right there, making him resistant to Circe's magic.
I call
Odysseus
this
forced
herb
Circe
holy
to change his
moly.
men. Wait, we're not
Sorry.
there yet.
I'm sorry. I love it.
Odysseus forced Circe to change his men back to their human forms and was seduced by her. They remained with her for 1 year. Finally, guided by Circe's instructions, Odysseus and his crew crossed the ocean and reached a harbor at the western edge of the world where Odysseus sacrificed to the dead. Okay. Odysseus summoned the spirit of the prophet Tiresias and was told that he may return home if he is able to stay himself and his crew from eating the sacred livestock of Helios on the island of Thrinacia, and that failure to do so would result in the loss of his ship and his entire crew. Well, that's different. He then meets his dead mother, Anticlea, and first learns of the suitors and what happened in Ithaca in his absence. Odysseus also converses with his dead comrades from Troy. Returning to Aea, they buried Elpenor and were advised by Circe on the remaining stages of their journey. They skirted the land of the Sirens. All of the sailors had ears plugged up with beeswax, except for Odysseus, who was tied to the mast as he wanted to hear the song.
Yeah.
He told his sailors not to untie him as it would only make him drown himself. They then passed between the six-headed monster Scylla in the whirlpool Charybdis. Scylla claimed 6 of his men. Next, they landed on the island of Thrinacia with the crew overriding Odysseus' wish to remain away from the island. Zeus caused a storm that prevented them from leaving, causing them to deplete the food given to them by Circe. While Odysseus was away praying, his men ignored the warnings of Tiresias and Circe and hunted the sacred cattle. Helios insisted that Zeus punish the men for this sacrilege. They suffered a shipwreck, and all but Odysseus drowned as he clung to a fig tree. Washed ashore on Ogygia, he remained there as Calypso's lover. Oh man, hold on. What did I miss? Kiss me. Oh.
Okay.
Why
So,
I say her? Yeah, yeah. Honestly,
all right,
because
I
he's
have
dumb.
things to say
Mhm.
about the this giving his name, but we're going to wait until we get to
I gotta read that.
the musical.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What was the kinky for? What did I read?
I mean,
Honestly, yeah, it's like I mean, huh? Okay.
The
So,
sirens. Yeah, fair.
yeah, yeah. Fair, fair, fair. Okay. So now we are in the return to Ithaca. Having listened to his story, hold on.
You
You
right.
freak. So true. Having listened to his story, the Phaeacians agreed to provide Odysseus with more treasure than he would have received from the spoils of Troy. They deliver him at night while he is fast asleep to a hidden harbor on Ithaca. Odysseus awakens and believes that he has been dropped on an instant land before Athena appears to him and reveals that he is indeed on Ithaca. She hides his treasure in a nearby cave and disguises him as an elderly beggar so he can see how things stand in his household. He finds his way to the hut of one of his own slaves, swineherd
That's so
Eumaeus,
unfortunate.
Eumaeus, who treats him hospitably and speaks favorably of Odysseus. After dinner, the disguised Odysseus tells the farm laborers a fictitious tale of himself. Telemachus sails home from Sparta, evading an ambush set by the suitors. He disembarks on the coast of Ithaca and meets Odysseus. Odysseus identifies himself to Telemachus, but not to Eumaeus, and they decide that the suitors must be killed. Telemachus goes home first, accompanied by Eumaeus. Odysseus returns to his own house, still pretending to be a beggar, where he is only recognized by his faithful dog Argos. He is ridiculed by the suitors in his own home, especially Antinous.
Antinius?
Antinius,
I don't know.
Antinius, whatever. Odysseus meets people and tests her intentions by saying he once met Odysseus in Crete. Closely questioned, he adds that he had recently been in Thesprotia and had learned something there of Odysseus' recent wanderings. Odysseus' identity is discovered by the housekeeper, Euryclea, when she recognizes an old scar as she is washing his feet. Okay. She tries to tell
Interesting.
Penelope about the beggar's true identity, but Athena makes sure that Penelope cannot hear her. Odysseus swears her to secrecy. All right, so then the next day, at Athena's prompting, Penelope maneuvers the suitors into competing for her hand with an archery competition using Odysseus' bow. The best song. Mwah. The
Such a
man
good
who
song.
can, such a good song. The man who can string the bow and shoot an arrow through a dozen axe heads would win. Odysseus takes part in the competition, and he alone is strong enough to string the bow and shoot the arrow through the dozen axe heads, making him the winner. He then throws off his rags and kills Intin. hmm, Again.
As he should.
Oh my God, why am I just so bad at this? Anyways, him, the bad one, with his
Bad
next
one.
arrow. Odysseus kills the other suitors first, using the rest of the arrows, and then along with Telemachus, Eumaeus, and the cowherd Philotius with swords and spears. Once the battle is won, Telemachus also hangs 12 of their household maids. What? Okay.
I don't,
Hangs 12 of their house hangs 12 of their household maids, whom Euryclea identifies as guilty of betraying Penelope or having sex with the suitors. Okay.
I mean, who cares what they do in their own home? But
I
also, how
Odysseus
dare you betray Penelope?
literally. Odysseus identifies himself to Penelope. She is hesitant but recognizes him when he mentions that he made their bed from an olive tree still rooted to the ground. Such a good song. She embraces him and they sleep. The next day, Odysseus goes to his father Laertes' farm and reveals himself. Following them to the farm is a group of Ithacans led by Euph- Eupithes, father of the bad one, who are out for revenge for the murder of the suitors. A battle breaks out, but is quickly stopped by Athena and Zeus. And I guess that's where it ends, because
Yeah.
that's the last that is written there. Antinius, his voice is so pretty. Yeah, his voice is very pretty.
But also the worst song.
When I hear Laertes, I think of Hamlet. Honestly, same. Yeah, wait, hold on. Well, it depends on which song we're talking about. Hold Them Down is my least favorite song
Like,
because of
musically,
how good it is.
great.
Yeah,
Musically,
it
it's a
is so
fabulous
good.
song.
It's so good that it makes me so uncomfortable.
Like, lyrically, horrible. I hate it.
I hate it. I hate it. But he did such a good job in making like it. I cannot. But anyways, so okay, so some of that is very different
Yeah.
very different in the musical. God. Yeah, that's wild. And
Yeah. So, okay. So in Epic the Musical, real quick, we'll just do a quick run through of
wait.
just Epic the Musical.
Epic, the musical, is one of the best things
It's so
that
good.
has come out in the past like few years by Jay Rivera. It Herans, Herans,
I think it's Eran's.
Herans,
I'm
right?
assuming, right? Because they're Puerto
Right.
Rican, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which like twins, love it. One of the best things, like honestly, when I first heard it, one of the very first songs was from like the first. It was the second song from the first album, Just a Man. Um, and I had no idea about this fucking like thing, but like when I first heard it, I was like, "There's no reason for you to go that hard on the fucking Odyssey." Like to tell the story of the
Listen,
Odyssey, there was no reason for you to go that hard and to like do such a fucking good job.
I would love
Um,
for them to make
Hold them down is awful in terms of
a
being
like
this amazing people.
stage production of Epic
Yes,
the Musical.
yes, yes. I
Put
need
it
one
on
right now.
Broadway. I will spend however much money to go
I will
see
spend
it.
so much money. I will spend money to go see it. I will spend money on merch, and if you film it, I will absolutely spend money again.
Like I will
I will spend.
purchase it in every
I will
possible way that I
possible
can.
format in every format. But anyways, Epic the musical
Okay, so
by and I think it's Jorge. I think Jay is just a nickname.
yeah, it is interesting too. Okay, so like on on like the credits of the song, it
Hmm.
is Jorge Rivera Erans.
Rivera Herans.
His social media is just J Erans.
Hmm.
So I do find that interesting, and I'm curious about it for no reason other than
I'm just
fucking a
curious.
nerd when it comes to names. um, but so I do think it's really interesting the way that he approached it too, of like making this, because there are 8 albums, I believe.
Mm,
Troy,
I am also very nosy. Yes.
Cyclops, Storm, Circe, Underworld, Vengeance, Ithaca?
Mm.
Am I missing? I feel like I have to be missing
1,
one.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, it's 9.
Oh, it's 9. Okay, wait, then
Yeah.
I'm missing 2.
Did you say Thunder?
Thunder. I missed Thunder.
So Troy, Cyclops, Ocean, Circe, Underworld, Thunder, Wisdom, Vengeance, Ithaca.
I missed Thunder and
Oh,
Wisdom,
Wisdom. Yeah.
which is probably my favorite saga, to be honest. Like, Wisdom and Ithaca are my favorites.
I think Underworld has
I,
to be my favorite.
I do really love Under. I mean, they're all so good. But, so, there's...
Well, the thing is like, out of the one that I like all the songs, it's Underworld.
That's fair.
Now, but there are my like really good songs in the other ones that I'm like, these are my favorite songs.
Yeah. So, but okay, so there's 9 albums or sagas, and each one has about 5 songs on it, I think. Which again, I think also goes really, it kind of plays really well with the structure of the Odyssey. Right? Because like the Odyssey is kind of broken up into these sections, and each section is made up of books.
Also, that's very fair. All the fucking music is just so good.
It's all so good. Like, the only reason that I say that Wisdom is my favorite is because I love like all of the songs that are in that album. The rest of them, there's usually 1 or 2 songs that I'll skip, not because they're bad songs, but because like thematically I just am not there. I'm not here for it. I don't.
Yep.
I usually skip the Cyclops saga because, again, thematically, I'm just not about it.
No.
Um, but yes, so it also, because of the way that he kind of produced it, was over a few years of releasing it. So um,
Qualities.
the Ithaca saga, which was the final one, just recently released. Like what, a month ago?
I believe it was in technically 2 months ago, December. I think it was in December.
Oh, okay, December, yeah.
Yeah,
But
December.
and then he commissioned artists to create animatics for each of these songs,
Hmm.
which are also amazing. Like,
Yes.
they're so fantastic. These artists are wild. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Hold on a second because I need to plug this person right here.
You right, you
I do
right.
not believe that they were the one that that was um hired for the like original stuff, but Neil Illustrator has some of the best animatics for these fucking songs. Oh my god, they're so
They're
fucking
so
good.
good.
Their art,
I feel like, was
I
that
love it.
not the original one for Ruthlessness?
I'm not sure. That's why I'm like, I don't know for sure that this was one of the ones, but I,
Okay.
found them
Yeah,
like,
but
cause
it's
like,
so good.
cause other people like, cause there's the like, the video that he made where he got all of the cast members that he could, and they all gathered together to like film,
Mhm.
like, or stream it, and so he has some of them on that. But I don't believe that like that there's also other videos that like compiled different animatics. So I'm
Okay.
like, I don't know
Gotcha.
which one I got that from, but listen, Neil Illustrator has me by the fucking throat.
It's so,
Their their
and I
animation
think,
for their animation is so good, but also their like just their design for Poseidon is
yes. I
I
think the
am
thing that I love so much about their animatics is that, like, they include a lot of like little pieces of Greek mythology that aren't like really present in the story.
yeah.
Um
Um I didn't watch it live, but I watched it after they like posted it. But like I loved all of
they're
the
such
like
theater nerds. Like,
they are
honestly.
such theater nerd. I love them. They're all so cute. They're like the people who like couldn't make it, like sending in like videos.
Yeah. Oh my
That was
gosh, the
so cute.
freaking Poseidon.
It's so good.
uh,
So good.
um but so some of the like story changes in
Hmm.
Epic versus the original Odyssey, which, so first of all, just a structural change. I mean, the Odyssey starts with a setup, right? Of like, oh, we're starting with Telemachus.
Mm. Yeah.
Um and like kind of introducing this, like, hey, this is the story that we're gonna be telling. This is where we're gonna end. Like, this is where our story is going to end.
Hmm.
Versus Epic starts with the battle, like the Battle of Troy.
Troy. Yeah.
Um and then goes into, so the Lotus Eaters is another like quick change. They don't, only Polites and Odysseus meet the Lotus Eaters.
Yeah.
And they don't eat the lotus fruit. But the
Yep.
Lotus Eaters tell them about the cave
Dave.
where there's
Hmm.
all these sheep.
Yeah.
Um, and then, so that is, I guess, another change as well. Um, the cave was filled with sheep, and Odysseus killed one.
Hmm.
And then
But that's
Polyphemus comes back and is like, "You killed my sheep."
yeah, an epic.
In Epic, it's like, "You killed my sheep. I'm gonna kill you."
And then in
But
the Odyssey, The
Yeah.
Odyssey, he just comes in and it's just like, you're in my house. I'm gonna block you in, and I'm just gonna start munching.
Yep. So, and he does in Epic, he does still kind of like trick him by saying that his name is Nobody,
Mm-hmm.
and then like make him pass out. In Epic, he uses the Lotus root to like drug him basically,
Yeah.
and then like gouges out his eye. Um, and we still meet Aeolus.
Mm-hmm.
We still get the wind bag. Um, Frickin' Eurylochus opens it. Um, where they go to the Lystrigians, but they don't actually meet the like Lystrigians. They just meet Poseidon at this point. And that is the other thing is I think in the Odyssey, the only god that actually interacts with any of the humans is Athena.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in this, or in Epic, Odysseus interacts with Poseidon, Zeus, Athena, and Hermes.
Yeah.
Um, and then they end up on Circe's island. She does turn his men into pigs. He gets the mole leaf from Hermes. So he kind of like beats her in a thing. They're not stuck there for a year though. She tries to seduce him, and he says, "No, I'm married. I'm a married man. I'm taken." And she says, "Oh
Lies.
no, he actually cares about his wife. Well, I can't kill him." And then sends him to the underworld to find the prophet Tiresias. And then he doesn't return to Circe after
No.
the journey to the underworld. They do put wax in their ears to evade the sirens, but Odysseus also puts wax in his ears in Epic.
Mm-hmm.
And then like gets information from the sirens, which I do. So that is the other thing. I know it's not really stated in the Wikipedia, but the reason that Odysseus wants to hear the sirens in the Odyssey is because supposedly if you hear the siren song and you don't die, you are then like so much wiser for having heard it.
Interesting.
Which is kind of Odysseus's whole thing, right? Like that's why Athena is like protective of him. Like that's why he is kind of her chosen, because like he is, you know, in Epic the musical they call it a warrior of the mind. Like he is a master strategist. And so he wants to gain any wisdom that he can. They do meet Scylla in Epic, and 6 men die. And then, rather than just like landing on the island, the crew like mutinies against Odysseus in Epic, because he sacrificed 6 men to Scylla. And then they do eat the cattle.
No,
and Zeus comes and punishes them. And then Odysseus ends up on Calypso's island and is there for 7 years. Athena does not at any point in Epic the Musical disguise herself as anyone.
No.
she's just Athena. And, like, there are
Odysseus.
points where she doesn't, like, immediately reveal who she is, but, like, she's just
Yeah.
Athena.
Yeah.
Um,
Hold on.
and so Athena does go and, like, help Telemachus kind of stand up to the suitors. And then because of that, it kind of, like, spurs Athena on to, like, go find out what happened to Odysseus. And then she goes to Zeus to be like, hey, can you release him? I am obsessed with Calypso's voice. I cry every time I listen to I'm Not Sorry for Loving You. I get chills every time I
do.
listen to it, and I cry.
Okay. Listen, Scylla's voice.
Scylla's voice is also
Mhm.
amazing.
Also, is Odysseus a feminist in Epic?
I mean,
I
I don't.
mean,
Well,
I don't know. Well,
here's the thing. I think you could say yes,
yeah,
because
right.
he is, like, I think throughout Epic, he recognizes, like, Penelope, Circe, Calypso, like, he recognizes their strengths and, like, that they are people,
Mm-hmm.
which I know is kind of a low bar, right? Like, hey, you recognize the personhood of another human being.
No.
Congrats, Gold Star, but that's kind of a lot, actually.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think so personally, one of my favorite things about Epic the Musical is the characterization of Penelope. Because in the Odyssey, Penelope, yes, she is given this, like, little bit of, like, character of, like, kind of outwitting the suitors, right? Of, like, it is, like, a thing within the Odyssey that she unweaves the burial shroud, like, that she worked on at night to kind of put off having to choose a new suitor. Which remains in Epic as well. But she doesn't have a whole lot of agency beyond that, or, like, any kind of, like, personality, really. And I feel like in Epic, we get to see multiple times how Penelope is almost an equal to Odysseus in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, with the burial shroud. Like,
yeah.
she is,
Like, that's cunning.
It's cunning, right? It's using her wit, which is
Yeah.
what Odysseus is known for as well.
Yeah.
And then, like, devising the challenge, like, she knew. Like, it wasn't, like, she frames it to everyone else as this, like, oh, I want the best of the best to be my new husband. She knew full well that no one besides her husband would be able to string this bow.
Yeah.
At all. Like, even stringing the bow was like...
Yeah. Listen, I love how Ithaca Saga, like, goes, but God, do I really wish that he had added, like, Odysseus coming in and, like, pulling that shit.
Yeah.
Like,
I do think that would have been hilarious.
That would have been so good if that had been, like, what he kept. But
and then the other, like, when Odysseus and Penelope reunite and she tells him to move, she says, oh, can you do me a favor? Can you move that wedding bed? And just, like, take it far away. And he says, like, how could you ask me to do that? I carved it into the olive tree where we first met. Like, the only way to move it is to, like, cut it out.
Cut it from his roots.
And she says, only my husband knew that, so I guess that makes him you. Like, that just little thing of, like, this test once again
Mm.
to see if that is her husband. And
Yeah.
you know, and then like I am obsessed. I'm absolutely obsessed with her verse at the end of Would You Fall in Love with Me Again?
Mm-hmm.
Um that part where she says uh like she says like I would fall in love with you over and over again. I
Never
don't care
again.
how, where, or when. You're always my husband
Mm-hmm.
and I've been waiting. Don't tell me you're not the same person. Or no, it says I don't care how, where, or when. Um, I'll always love you. And then don't tell me you're not the same person. You're always my husband. And like that line and the way that she delivers, like the way that that singer delivers it is just so good. And like I absolutely love um this like we get to see Penelope as like a person who
Mm-hmm.
has longed for Odysseus as much as he has longed for her throughout this whole musical. And, you know, her asserting this like, listen, I don't give a fuck if you just if you like are changed by war, whatever. Like you are my husband. All right?
Yeah.
That's it. End of story. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love a strong woman who asserts her dominance.
I mean, chef's kiss, right?
Um
Um, Also, I love like the animatics.
yes.
Like the animatic, like they were saying, Decidas doesn't move at all towards her. He like lets her make the choice.
Mhm.
Like it is, it's so good because like the animatics that he like asked for, like they're different from like people who just like listen to the musical and just like made these, which like they're great and all, but like you can see like the thought that he put. Like there's things that he couldn't include in the song and like
Yeah.
that need to be more visual. And like the fact that he like asked for those specific things, I'm like, chef's kiss. Thank you. Like you again, it did not have to go this hard. This is the Odyssey did not need to go this hard. Like
Listen.
it's so fucking good.
It's so good. And like um
But yeah, back
what
to
was I gonna
Penelope.
say?
We stopped at Penelope and the comparison that she is his equal.
Yes.
But
But yeah, I just like I really love kind of getting to see that like she does like you know, like you said, like he lets her make that choice and she does choose him.
mm-hmm.
And she does like choose him knowing everything that he did to get back to her. Right?
Yeah.
And like like that is a big theme throughout the musical is him becoming a monster to get back to her.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I did. All right, we're gonna let y'all into the room a little bit. Earlier, I came home and went into the room and I said, "I need you to listen to this and tell me if I'm crazy." So, at the end of "Would You Fall in Love Again," after like after the last verse, and they like in the animatic they hug at that point or whatever. Um, but then it transitions into just instrumentals. And there's a section of that instrumental that is the same as one of the earlier songs when he says, "I'm just a man."
Yeah, it's just a man.
Um, yes. And so my
Yep,
thought
it's just a
process,
man.
I needed Sindri to confirm that I was hearing it correctly because I am not a musical person. Like I don't have a musical ear. I don't know anything about like chord progressions or like melodies or anything like that. Um And Sindri has much more of an ear for that, so I needed them to like confirm that's what I was hearing. And I think it says so much about like this relationship of, you know, he, in his mind, he is fully a monster at this point, right? Like he has sacrificed his crewmen. He's killed he literally just killed 108 men. They deserved it, in my opinion, but
Yeah.
he just did that. And he also like essentially tortured Poseidon right before this.
Fine. It's fine. He also deserved it.
He also deserved it. So he fully believes. That's another thing that I will talk about. But he fully believes that he is a monster at this point. And I think that, like, to me, that having that rift of just a man very much is, like, kind of saying, like, oh, Penelope sees the humanity within him and loves him. And, like, while he has done these monstrous things, he is still just a man. And it's the man that she loves.
Fucking language. Me too. Sorry. Like,
listen.
Me
as
the fuck.
All right. Poseidon, get in the water.
Get in the water is...
Things happen. Things
Poseidon's
happen
voice-
when you listen to Get in the Water.
It's just so good. I'm like, chills. Literally chills, bro.
It's so
and
good.
honestly, the same. I don't know what it is about Suze's voice, too. Like,
yes. Thunderbringer?
Thunderbringer
I'm
is...
dead.
Yeah.
But okay, so there's a couple, but okay, so I want to go back to the really quick when we were reading through the synopsis of the Odyssey, and you said, let me find the comment. Hold on. It was, why would you give your name to an enemy?
Yeah.
And this actually really pisses me off because we see multiple times within Epic where Odysseus knows not to give his name to somebody.
Yeah.
He doesn't give it to Polyphemus at the beginning, right? He tells him his name is nobody. And also when he first meets Athena, he does not tell her his name at first.
Yep.
He asks for her name and she doesn't give it to him, and then he's just like, no, I know who you are. You're Athena. Like, I'm a fangirl for Athena. Like, let's be real.
I love
Odysseus
her.
was an Athena fangirl. Yeah, I think you're right. I do think very much that, like, it within Epic, he, you know, because I think goodbye happens right before he does that.
Goodbye happens before what?
Before he tells Polyphemus his name.
No.
Is it right after?
Because it's remember them, and my goodbye is the end of the Cyclops saga.
Got it. Okay, yeah. So, but yeah, so like Polites did just die. So did several of his other, like several other of his men.
Yeah. Honestly, that was the biggest disrespect.
That's okay. Open Arms is also one of my favorite songs. Like, so my favorite songs in this are very much like, they're my favorite because of theme, right? Not so much because of music, like because they all sound amazing. I get chills listening to every single one of these songs, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, listen, before we end the stream, we have to go around the room and say which songs are like the ones that, like, when you listen to it, I'm like chills, because I got like a couple.
Um, but yes, Open Arms is one of my favorites because I feel very much akin to Polites of
Hmm.
like, greet things with kindness and good things will come your way. Um, and so like that was real messed up that this man's just killed Polites, but that's fine, whatever.
Yeah. Hmm. That was
Um,
real. I'm telling you, disrespectful.
just so rude. But yes, okay, and then so I actually okay, and then again to go back to this, why couldn't Athena tell Aphrodite in God Games that Odysseus and Penelope have such a pure and fulfilling love for each other? I made this exact point like a
Yeah.
week ago when we were talking about this. It's so dumb to me.
Hmm.
Honestly, most of God Game, the only ones, well, okay, not most of, because Hera's makes a lot of sense to me, right?
Hmm.
Like Hera is the goddess of marriage
Yeah.
and family, and so for her to just be like he's never cheated on his wife,
Yeah.
like yeah, that would make sense. Ares makes sense to me too because the winning argument there is uh set him free and he'll get back to his homeland and make everybody bleed. That's a
Mm.
accurate argument um for Ares. And Hephaestus also makes sense to me. I think that Hephaestus has like this kind of very, you know, uh sorry. I'm like half trying to pay attention to two things. I think Hephaestus,
Right.
Hephaestus's story is that when he was born, um, was so like ugly that he was thrown off of Mount Olympus. And
Mm.
stories vary on whether it was Hera or Zeus that threw him.
Yeah.
Um, but so I think he has kind of a importance placed on loyalty. And so it absolutely makes sense to me for the argument for him to be like, "Hey, these people betrayed him.
Yeah.
If you like set him free, he can get back to the people who really care about him." Um, but Aphrodite's does not make sense to me because,
Yeah.
again, the love that Odysseus and Penelope have for each other should have been enough to convince Aphrodite to let him go. Um, and Apollo's doesn't super make sense to me because while
Yeah.
Apollo is associated with music, there's never been any kind of like indication that him and the sirens were like tied
Yeah.
together or like, vibing or anything like that.
Hmm.
Um so I
My
don't
thing when I first listened to it, was that like because Apollo is like he is the god of the sun, right?
yes.
Am I or
Yeah.
fuck?
No,
Am
that
I
and yeah, that's
insane?
the other thing. They ate
And
his
so like,
cattle.
well, but after reading the like Odyssey, like the original Odyssey, like they talk about Helios.
Yeah,
And so
it's
I'm like, I don't.
okay, so
So
couple things. Listen. Greek mythology is wild
yeah.
because um there's a lot of different stories, like versions of the same story.
Oh, okay.
Um and so
Oh,
there's also like some
she has a
debate about because
skipping.
and the other thing with Greek mythology is this. The
Mhm.
Greeks and also the Romans
Mhm.
did not colonize the way that Europe did.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh,
Mm-hmm.
the Greeks and Romans, when they conquered a people, would allow them to like keep their gods and their religion, and would like adopt some of them into their own.
Yeah. So.
So we get kind of
Mm,
this uh, mismatch,
yeah.
where like there will be multiple gods of the sun, or technically I believe Helios is a titan, um the same way
Mm.
that Proteus is. I
Who the
know
hell's
in
Proteus?
that
Hold on.
in the Wikipedia synopsis, they refer to him as an old sea god.
Proteus.
But I believe he is actually a titan. Um I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure.
Mm,
And so
sure.
when, the
Uh, uh,
gods took over, when the gods killed Kronos and kind of like took over everything, they just kind of took things over um from the Titans. Yeah, Greek
yeah.
mythology is just all over the place, and there's always like
Yeah.
12 different versions of every story.
Yeah.
Um so
So
yes,
according to uh-huh.
I believe Helios was a Titan and
That
Apollo
is
took over.
okay. I see. I see what you
And
were saying.
in Greek mythology, the cattle do belong to Apollo. I know this because there's also a story of Hermes as a little kid, um, like breaking in to where the cattle live, and like I think he like stole one or something. And Apollo thought it was like hilarious because Hermes was just a little kid,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um, but yeah, so the cattle
Ooh.
are Apollo's.
Well, so according to Wikipedia, which we can always trust
Oh,
100.
always. Wikipedia is
Gas,
always correct.
gasps in Greek myth. That's my new favorite. Oh my god, that's my new favorite. Okay, so Wikipedia is always right and it's never wrong.
Yeah, 100%.
Um, Helios figures prominently in several works of Greek mythology, in which he is often described as the son of the Titans.
Okay, so
But
technically he would be a god.
yeah, and um, he is the god who personifies the sun.
Okay, so
His name is also Latinized, whatever, blah blah blah. He's often depicted, blah 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 blah. He was a relatively minor deity in classical Greece. His
mhm.
worship grew more prominent in late antiquity thanks to his identification with several major solar divinities of the Roman period, particularly Apollo and Sol. And so that is on Helios. On the cattle, on Wikipedia there is a cattle of Helios,
Mhm.
also called the oxen of the sun, are cattle pastured on the island of Thrinacia or Thrinacia, identified with Sicily or Malta.
Apollo is Helios'
It's the show.
chauffeur. I mean, so
Pretty much.
yeah, like I don't know. I mean, I was always from like the stuff that I've read, I was always under the impression that like the cattle were Apollo's.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
No, so listen,
I who
the
knows?
he might have cattle, but there is specifically like the oxen of the sun, also
Okay.
called the cattle of Helios, and
Yeah.
those are the cattle that are on that island.
Got it. All right.
So I am, but everything is like oral histories. So how accurate is like half of these things, like, or
Yeah.
like not accurate, but like how what is it like? it's not gonna be. Not everybody's gonna share that same thing. You know, like how
Yeah,
you
and
mentioned
it's not
earlier
gonna be
that like
consistent. Like, yeah,
consistent. That's the word. Yeah.
but yeah. So
Anyways, going back, when I first listened to it before reading the like thing, I was just like, why wouldn't Apollo just be like, he killed my cattle?
yeah.
Like, what have
Well,
you
but
to
and
say
then
to
again,
that?
also though, like yes, I agree with you, but also it wasn't him. He in fact told Eurylochus not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
Eurylochus
yeah,
was
yeah.
just like, no, I'm gonna eat. Also, okay, this is the other thing. I don't have a theory about this one. It is just
Mm-hmm.
something that I noticed.
Conspiracy theory time. All right.
Um, so in the first song,
Mm-hmm.
it's the horse and the infant.
Yep.
When Zeus comes down to tell
Yeah.
Odysseus that he has to kill the baby,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
he says, I don't think you're ready.
Yeah.
In that, like, obviously it doesn't sound like that because I can't sing for shit, but not the point.
Mm-hmm.
In mutiny, I think it's in
Mm-hmm.
mutiny, when they land
Uh-huh.
on the island with the cattle, Eurylochus says, hunger is so heavy.
Yeah.
And it's like the same
Yeah.
note, whatever. Again, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
music, guys.
Mm-hmm.
um, but it sounds the same. And I don't know if it's like supposed to be a kind of like, because there are multiple points. It's very common for characters to like repeat their own motifs, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we hear the warrior of the mind, piano melody pretty much every time we see Athena,
The clock.
and the clock as well. Um, but the only time there aren't as many times where we see characters producing other characters' motifs.
Mm-hmm.
The only one, and I didn't notice this, but I saw Jay make a video about it, of the second verse in Luck Runs Out, the chord progression when Odysseus is like appealing to Eurylochus as his friend, or when
Mm-hmm.
he says like, where is this coming from, my friend, is the
Mm-hmm.
same chord progression as the second verse of Open Arms. And it's to show Polites' lasting effect on Odysseus.
Oh.
And again, I didn't notice this. I'm
Yeah.
not saying this is my theory. I'm saying the creator of the musical made a
Yeah. Yeah.
video
Yeah.
where he talked about it.
Yeah.
So, like,
No,
having that same
yeah.
thing with Zeus and Eurylochus, I'm not sure what the, like, thing is. Like, I'm not sure what he's trying to say with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm trying to like think about it because it is.
I think Zeus may have had a. Yeah, that's fair. I do think I mean, Zeus, I feel like just kind of does whatever he wants, right? And it
Yeah.
wouldn't surprise me if he kind of encouraged Eurylochus to eat the cattle. I'm trying to remember because I know, so the Trojan War was like kind of a split for the Greek gods. So like I know, like, like Athena and like some of the other gods were on the side of the Greeks, whereas like the rest of the gods were on the sides of the Trojans. And I believe that Zeus was on the side of the Trojans. And so he got real upset when the Greeks sacked Troy. Um, so yeah, I would not surprise me if like he kind of if Zeus kind of like influenced Eurylochus to actually eat the cattle.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But also, if so, on a different note, because of what you said earlier,
mhm.
um, of like Zeus just kind of does whatever he wants,
Yeah.
and he kind of like, and I think like when he, and I think it does go along with like kind of like, I think as I'm talking about this, I'm like, okay, I can also see it being like a way to influence him,
Mhm.
like manipulate him into like eating the cattle. But like, I think like the when he says, "I don't think you're ready," is a way to egg on Odysseus
Yeah.
into like doing what he wants him to do.
Yeah.
And Zeus is
Zeus is
kind
not a
of
feminist.
he's not a feminine.
Almost every single story about Zeus in Greek mythology
It's so
involves
good.
him raping a woman
Yeah.
and then having his wife punish her for it.
Yeah. Like he honestly is literally the pits. He's the
He's
worst.
kind of the worst.
Kind of the
We
worst.
don't
No,
stand Zeus in
I
this
honestly
house.
I don't think he's kind of the worst. He just is the
He
worst.
just is. Yeah.
Um but but so what I was saying is so when he says that, and like because Eurylochus is the one who says hunger is so heavy.
Yeah.
Me,
Right? Like,
oh me.
fingers crossed.
Because he's the one that's saying it. Like hunger
Hmm.
is so heavy. Like because I feel like I don't know, I feel like it is that kind of just like I will do what I want type of thing.
Uh-huh.
Just to get what I like I will say and do whatever I want just to you know
Yeah.
like that's what
I
it sounds like more to me because like I feel like had there been more of a when we were reading the synopsis of the Odyssey, there is a point where he is warned not to eat the cattle. They
mhm.
never get that warning, and I think if that warning is like the truth, then I can absolutely see um how it is just how that connection is, Zeus manipulating that.
Yeah.
But also, like, I guess it could just be like the way for Jay to have that without having it in the song.
Mhm.
Like that could also be it. Like that he is trying to make that connection of like, oh, this is Zeus' machinations,
Yeah.
and this is what I'm trying to get out without actively like saying it.
Mhm.
Maybe I don't know.
No, for sure. I can see that because like I know that a lot of the storytelling within Epic does rely on the musicality of it.
Yeah.
Um
Oh, absolutely.
and so like I can absolutely see that. I don't know if that is what it actually is, but like it makes sense.
Hmm.
Um but yeah, I mean honestly, like things like this I think are what make me love that musical so much
Yeah.
because like he put so much thought and effort into it. And like, I know I've seen him talk about like each character has an instrument that's like their
Yep.
instrument, right? So Odysseus is a guitar, Athena's is a piano. Um I want to say Penelope's is an organ. And
Mm.
then Telemachus is all three of them. And I love that so much.
That's
Oh, a viola, yes. But yeah, Telemachus has all three of them. And then when he appears in Odysseus, it is the Warrior of the Mind tune on the piano.
yeah. I love that.
Um, I love that. And then like he's also, I saw him talk about at the end of uh what is the song right after Odysseus?
I can't help but wonder.
Yes, at the end of that, we hear the piano playing the Warrior of the Mind theme
Mm-hmm.
and the guitar playing the Penelope.
What?
Um, and he,
Wait, hold on. I think wait, the guitar. What
so
did
yeah,
you
so
say?
like the guitar playing the like Penelope theme.
Okay, I was like, wait a minute, what? I was like, did you say that backwards?
Sorry, yeah,
Got you
no,
now.
yeah. So
I
it's like
got it.
Odysseus's instrument, the guitar, is
Yeah.
playing
No, no,
Penelope,
yeah.
and then
I,
Athena's instrument,
my
the
brain got
piano, is
it.
playing the Warrior of the Mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he says like, you know, he did that to kind of show that like at the end of the day, they are two different people in extremely different headspaces.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
God, I fucking this man's really did
He
just
just
like
he did so good. And
he
so
did.
okay, to bring it back
Also,
to the animatics.
I love that animatic where in is that in God Games? Yeah, where she like where he introduces Athena like to Telemachus like as a baby, and I'm just like, it is that art is just it's just I don't
Is
the
so
animatics add such a nut like they add a whole other
yes.
layer to the music. Like the music on
Mhm.
its own is already like so moving and so powerful. And then like the animatics that like he himself like planned because he has posted of like
I
this was
love
like what I sent them.
I
And this
love
is what
watching his
they
like these are the references that I sent the
yeah.
artist for these animatics, and especially the one for Dangerous.
So good. So
I
good. I
absolutely I
fucking love it.
love the animatic for Danger. I mean, I love the song Dangerous. I
I love
love both
Dangerous.
of Hermes' songs because like that
Yeah.
whole vibe is just amazing. Um but the yes, him dancing in Dangerous is hilarious. And Jay has posted a video of the reference video that he sent to the artist of him doing those dance moves
It's
to be
so
like,
good.
this is what I want Hermes to be doing.
It's so good. It's
And
just
it's so
fantastic.
funny. Um, but to like go back to the animatics for a second, the artist that you mentioned earlier, Sindri, the
Mm-hmm.
Neil,
Neil Neil Illustrator. I want to
um,
say.
I love their animatics so much because of like a lot of the like pieces of Greek mythology that they included within their animatics that aren't directly referenced in the musical. So like their animatic of God Games is so good.
It's so fucking good.
It's so good.
They're animatic.
Their Zeus is, I mean, top tier. Like, Zeus is a fuckboy, but their illustration of Zeus is someone that he's so pretty. He's
Get
just, listen.
okay,
But,
listen, because I was like, oh, let me make sure that I got this right. They got a print of Poseidon. Must have.
oh my gosh, yes. Okay, but so the thing that I love in their
Anyways.
God Games animatic, um,
Hmm.
you see Hephaestus, and like a chunk of his head, like a chunk of his skull is missing.
So good.
Again, to like reference that like he was thrown off Olympus and like disfigured. Um, and then with Hera, when she first pops up and it's like the disco music, we see the like people come up behind her and it makes like a peacock like fan,
Hmm.
and like a Hera's animal like association is the peacock.
Yeah.
And then like I love their Poseidon illustration is so good. And then they just recently, I think, released the animatic that they did for Get in the Water. And
Oh
I'm
my god,
obsessed with it
fucking good.
because they have, before you see Poseidon himself, you see these like horses made of water. And like, again, like Poseidon's animal association is horses. Um, but they look like kind of like a little bit creepy, you know? Um, it's so good. It's so good. And like his hair has like shipwrecks in it.
Oh my god, that is the fucking like I
It's
love
so
that.
good. It's so good.
I love that. Which one is and what song is that? Because I don't know if he has the ships in his hair in Get in the Water, but
I
oh
I
my
think
god.
he does have them in his, I don't know if he has them in his hair in Ruthlessness. I know he has
Ruthlessness,
them.
that's
He
the one.
has like an arm that is made of water.
Yeah, no, in Ruthlessness, that ending, in the end of that, he has it. I
But I'm
wasn't sure
pretty
if he
sure that
had it
he
in Get
has
in the
them
Water.
in Get in the Water.
Oh, okay, he also does. Okay, yeah. Oh my god,
And
that's
it's
like
just
honestly one of my
so good.
favorite. It's so fucking good. Like,
And all this to say, like, so one of our first book clubs on here, I remember we talked a lot about the way that we teach literature in schools and how a reliance on these like written works to analyze elements of a story is just really not helpful. Um and we talked about how like to teach poetry you could just as easily look at um like music, like musical verses. um and I think like even to teach like the like this proves that like storytelling can be so much more than like written word. And using that to teach people how to like read a story and interact with it, I think would be so much more, like, first of all, so much easier because people will engage with it way more. But also, like, it will make more sense to them.
yeah,
Also, yes, I'm pretty sure that, like, Poseidon, because I think that the ships that we see at the end of Ruthlessness are the ships he just
yeah,
sank.
yeah. Because he doesn't show up with the ships.
Yeah. And
It's
so
like
then I guess
after
he
he's
just
like
keeps
sunk
them
everything.
around until he meets up with Odysseus again to be like, haha, look at all your dead friends.
Just so fucked up. So fucky.
I do want to talk about Calypso for a minute because,
Hmm.
like I said, I love Calypso's voice in Epic.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and her two songs, Love in Paradise and
Hmm.
Not Sorry, are
Hmm.
some of my favorite songs. Um, like Not Sorry gives me chills every single time, and I cry. Specifically at the point where like he says I love you, but not in the way you want me
Hmm.
to.
Yeah.
And then she says I hate myself for for falling in love with you, or like I hate that I fell
Mm.
in love with you. Makes me cry every time. Um but like I don't know. So I know that we've talked about this before, and like it
Mm.
very much seems like implications are that Calypso is using her magic to like keep Odysseus trapped on this island.
Hmm.
But something that is kind of like glossed over in Epic, it is mentioned shortly, but I don't know that it's mentioned at all in the Odyssey. Calypso was exiled to this island as a
Hmm.
child by the
Yeah.
gods and has lived there by herself like for, in Epic the musical, she says 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
But like, so like I feel like, I really feel for her. Like, she is alone and she finally gets this like one person. Now, is it right for her to use her magic to keep him there against his will? No, of course not. But to me, I do feel like it is somewhat unclear of whether that is like she is intentionally doing that or not.
Yeah.
Because if the island isn't enchanted in some way to keep people there, then like, because like it doesn't make sense to me that she would be like exiled there and never try to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So there must be some kind of magic or something that is keeping her on this island. And like, so it doesn't like, I feel like it can't just be her that is keeping Odysseus there.
Yeah.
And so, while I don't like, and that's I think why I really love um Not Sorry, is like
Mm-hmm.
she does apologize to him for like kind of throwing herself at him and really like pushing him to fall in love with her. Um
Yeah.
but she says like, I'm not sorry for loving you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's very like, I don't know, to me it's very telling of like, hey, and we've talked about this before also, of like the fact that women within Epic are allowed to have these emotions and be very loud about their emotions.
Yep.
And it's not seen as like bad or like, oh, she's just being a woman, right? It's like, no. Calypso really does think that she loves Odysseus.
Mm-hmm.
Partially because he's the only person she's ever known. Which,
Yeah.
some issues, but not her fault. Um, and so like, to kind of like, I feel like a lot of times Calypso gets cast as like this villain
Mm-hmm.
who just is like forcing Odysseus to stay on this island so she can like play with him. And I very much
Yeah.
don't think that that's what the situation is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, Calypso is a victim in her own right.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't excuse her actions if she is truly keeping him there against his will.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I didn't
Good.
bring my water out here and I've been talking a lot, so my throat's dry.
Oh. Whoops.
Um, but I mean, hey, if I get up to affiliate, then I have to have my water because then people will be able to hydrate me. And,
You gotta hydrate, brother.
well, I'm not
Cause
affiliate yet, so people can't make me hydrate.
yeah.
Just, yeah.
You've been told to hydrate.
Damn, I've been
Get in the water.
get in the water.
He's asking very nicely, okay?
Well, you have my water.
Oh, do I?
Actually, you know what? I got a Diet Coke with the pizza, so I'm just gonna go grab that real quick.
Damn. Oh. Yeah, that's funny.
Man, that model really does some funny stuff when I
Yeah,
move.
dude, you walked away and the model just like very small, very tiny, almost disappeared. Like,
All right. I've gotten some fun hydration.
there you go.
Um, but yeah, I feel really bad for Calypso.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like one of the things that I really love about this musical is how like fleshed out all of the like female characters are as well
Yeah,
as the male characters, you know?
yeah, I agree.
Um but yes, that being said, Not Sorry for Loving You and also Warrior of the Mind always gives me
Mm-hmm.
chills.
Mm.
What about you?
My God, I have a couple. I have
Mhm.
more than a couple.
Uh-huh.
Um, Just a Man.
Mhm.
Just a Man definitely gives me like um No Longer You gives me um chills.
Mhm.
The Challenge.
Yes.
Would You Fall in Love with Me Again?
Mhm.
Um and then Scylla gives me chills.
Okay. Yeah.
Like
Would You Fall in Love with Me Again also always gives me
yeah,
chills.
like Scylla definitely gives me chills in the like it just I don't know, her voice is just mwah.
Yes. Yeah, I
Oh my God.
agree.
Where's Twinsies?
Twinsies.
Look at that. Like that's
Um,
literally oh my God.
I agree. Those are definitely
That's
the
totally.
like these give me chill songs. My favorite songs though are 100% both of Hermes songs. Like Dangerous and
Yeah.
Wouldn't You Like? I love those songs. They're so much fun.
Yeah.
Every time they come on, like I will listen to Epic in the car. Every time they come on, I'm like fully dancing while I'm driving.
Yeah, no, they're so good. Herm,
I love Hermes so much.
he is baby. I
He's
love him.
baby and I love him. Oh, okay, that is another thing that I noticed. One of the times I was listening through, those like giggles, the like ha ha ha. So we hear it from three different characters. We hear it from Odysseus when he
Mm.
first meets Athena. Um, when he's like, when he's like, I can see you, and she's like, how did you see through my spell? He's like, ha, I was lying. Ha ha ha.
Mm-hmm.
And then we hear it from Aeolus when he first meets her. And then we hear it from Hermes multiple times. That's his like signature little like ha ha
Yeah.
ha. And I think it's really interesting cuz so Hermes is also he's the god of messengers, but he's also the god of tricksters. Um and like thieves.
The giggle trio.
And so I do think it's really interesting, like it very much seems like part of Hermes' like signature thing is the little giggles. But then we
Mm-hmm.
see it in these two other characters when they are being like tricky, like tricksy,
Mm-hmm.
Because like Aeolus very much is just being like, oh, it's a game. You have to keep the bag shut. But I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell everyone that it's treasure.
Yeah.
Um,
Lamichi.
so it's like, oh, I'm being a little tricksy. um, Also, I saw a video where Jay was saying that a lot of people misheard the lyrics in Warrior of the Mind, and they thought that Athena was saying, "Well done, you lied to me. What's your name?" instead of "Well done, enlighten me. What's your name?" Um,
Hmm.
and he was like, "I just love this idea of like, good job, you're a liar." And like that's so funny to me. Um, but it is like, again, it is part of Odysseus using this like cunning and wit
Yeah.
within, like throughout the story. Like you know, he does trick her. Like he's like, show yourself, and then he's just like, oh, I can see you. And she's like, wait, how do you
Mm.
see me? What?
Yeah.
And I
Oh my
do.
God.
So I think you made a point when we were listening to Luck Runs Out
Mm-hmm.
that
I don't
that
remember.
whole like, you rely on wit and people
Oh,
die on it.
died on it. Yeah. That it's the. i- Is it when I like mentioned that like after like listening to a few times it became a warning
Mm-hmm.
rather than like a just like, oh, this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like it was because in Luck Runs Out they say you rely on wit and people die on it, and then in Mutiny, is it?
Mm-hmm.
They're like you relied on wit and like we all died on it. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, and because like that takes place after Luck Runs Out is like after everything with the Cyclops.
Mm-hmm.
It was very much of just like, hey, you try to rely on this wit, but like we all keep dying on it.
Yeah.
Point of like
But I do
the
also
time
think
that he doesn't.
I do think it's very interesting though, because yeah, I feel like the times that he doesn't rely on his
Hmm.
wit is when stuff really like kind of falls apart too.
Which like that's what Scylla.
Right. With Scylla, he wasn't relying on wit. He accepted like, this is a sacrifice that we have to make.
Yeah.
And like, we just have to lose 6 people. There's no way to like outwit it or
Around
like
that.
get around it. And that's what pushed the rest of the crew to mutiny.
Yeah.
Um and even the
Which
thing
like,
is like, sorry, go ahead.
mhm. No, I'm just like, like it's like, kind of forcing the crew to mutiny. Like this is kind of veering off of like the topics. I'm sorry if I like
No,
distract you.
you're fine.
But like in mutiny, it like one of the things that I really wish he had done, and I really do wonder why he didn't, is that like Odysseus, like Eurylochus is like, you can't tell me that you just sacrificed 6 men. It's like this man's was ready to leave everybody on Cersei's island.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that opened the fucking bag. Like he's the one that's caused like a lot of fucking issues that got them to this point. And like why Odysseus would not just like be like, yo, brother. Because like he does kind of say, it's like he only says like, if you were in my place, like you would do the same. And it's like, well, he already did. He already did the same thing. Like
Yeah.
call him out on like that fucking bullshit. And like I really wish that like I'm like I wonder why he didn't like
Yeah.
have those lyrics of like him calling him out.
I do, because okay, so, and I will say that I get very frustrated when, not really frustrated, but I really wish like a lot of times in stories when when like the main character finds out that like another character did something that like fucked them over, um
Hmm.
they don't like confront them with that information or like
Yeah.
call them out on it. And I'm the kind of person that I'm like, no, absolutely, I'm calling you out on all the shit you
Yeah.
do. And so like that is one of the things that I like about in 600 Strike
Yeah.
when he's, torturing Poseidon.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you didn't stop when I begged you.
Yeah.
You told me to close my heart.
Mm.
Here we are.
Yeah.
And then like in Odysseus, when the suitors are like, "Oh, we're sorry, like give us mercy or whatever." He's like, "You planned to kill my son and rape my wife.
Yeah.
Like,
Like.
why am I going to spare you or give you any mercy?"
Mm-hmm.
Which, like like we see him like calling these people out. I really wish he had just called out Eurylochus and been like,
Yeah.
"You fucking opened the bag.
Yeah.
You
Which
ate the
like.
cat. You ate the cattle.
Yeah. You were
You
the
are
fucking
the
one who did
reason
this.
Zeus is here. You ate those
Yeah. Literally.
cows. That
So
is
I
your
would.
fault."
So like as we're talking about this, like going back to the conversation that you and I had about like becoming the monster.
Yeah.
Um. I remember us having at one point we were like talking about like like the guilt that he feels, and like it really doesn't make him, it can't make him a monster if he like has like a remorse and shit, and like he really shows it like during that like time in mutiny is like
Mhm.
during Scylla is the one time that I think that he is like, oh, I may have like fucked up type of thing, right?
Mhm.
Like where it could be taken that way. But I think the only reason it's taken that way is because he can't face like Eurylochus is this like, I don't know what it is like narrative wise, but I'm like anytime that it becomes like it comes to Eurylochus, he doesn't face him the way that he faces everything else.
Mhm.
And so like I still think that like, with the whole like becoming the monster, I still think that like by his definition, like he is the monster.
Yeah.
It's just like whenever it comes to like Eurylochus, like he couldn't even tell him that he's the one that fucking did this shit. Like he's the
Yeah.
one that like did all of the fucking bullshit that got them to this point. You know?
Yeah, I think he is. I think Eurylochus is married to Odysseus's sister.
Oh, wow.
Um
Didn't know that.
and like that's not said in epic, but like he does call him like his brother. Like he's like, "You're like my brother,"
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Which very much can be taken of like they went to war together, like
Yeah,
they're brothers in
brothers in arms.
arms, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but I do also think it is interesting as we're talking about it now. I
Hmm.
kind of have another thought of like, because the song is like in Just a Man, like, the
Yeah.
song is like, when does a ripple become a tidal wave?
Yeah.
When does a candle become a blaze?
Yeah.
When does a man become a monster? And I
Yeah.
think kind of looking at the musical as a whole, it's like there isn't a specific point that we can say that's where it switched over. It is a gradual thing that builds and builds and
Yeah.
builds. And it starts with
Hmm.
him killing the baby.
Yeah.
And then like
Hmm.
just kind of spirals from there.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah, and I think like I think it really does line up because there's a lot of songs that have either the lyrics or like the kind of like music of Just a Man.
mhm.
And like tying it back to that is like it is like a gradual thing.
Yeah. And I do, but then again, to kind of bring it back, I do think I it's very interesting to me to see the difference between Odysseus with Calypso and Odysseus with Penelope,
Mhm.
and kind of how that like monster side of him interacts with that, and like what their actions do to like inform his reactions. Because like
Mhm.
with Calypso, I feel like she very much is this kind of like, nothing that happened outside of this island matters. and
Yeah.
we're in paradise and it's perfect and that's all that it is.
Mhm.
And then we see Odysseus like having like plagued with these nightmares and like,
Yeah.
you know, his like all I hear are screams. Um and then when we see him with Penelope and he's like I did all these things, like can you fall in love with me again with
Mhm.
everything that I've done?
Yeah.
And she asks him, she's like, what did you do?
Mhm.
Like, tell me, like, please, like, confide in me what these things are that you're struggling with.
Yeah.
And, like, accepts that part of him, but still, like, rejects the idea that he's someone else. Right? Like, she is accepting of this, like, monstrous bit of him and all these things that he's done, but he is still her husband at the end of the day. He is
Yeah.
still the man that she loves.
Mhm.
And because of that, she is going to like do her best to take care of him and like help him through that. And I
Mhm.
think it's such a like stark difference from Calypso.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I don't know, it's very
I
much like one of those things of like dealing with trauma and how do you, you know,
Yeah.
like how do you deal with that trauma and how do you move forward from that?
Mhm. But I think it also like in that like note of like dealing with trauma, like Calypso was just cast off by herself.
Mhm.
And so this island was her only like safe haven. It
Yeah.
became a safe haven. And so to her it's like nothing outside of here matters. The people who were out there are the people who cast me here. And
Mhm.
like it could have been like, oh, like it could have fully been so different had she gone in a different way, right? I'm like, oh, this is a prison and I fucking hate everything about this. I'm gonna raise this place to the ground. But like for her, it's like this is safe paradise and this is like
Yeah.
where I don't have to worry about anything.
Absolutely.
And it's like it's kind of quote unquote what saved her life, you know?
Mhm.
And so like could it also save Odysseus? Because like she's like, it's not like I'm not the one who's supposed to save you. She says, I think that's in
Yeah, yeah, that you're not mine to save.
You're not mine to save. Yeah.
I love that the birds will just land on the sheep's head. Look at it.
Dude,
That's so
it's
cute.
so cute. I love it so much. I can just like the sheep are so fucking cute.
Um, but yes, we are we've been on here for about 2 hours now, so
We
um
could be here for a few more, let me tell you
we
that.
could genuinely be on here a whole
Like
day talking about this.
we I didn't even get to like the fact that like Scylla and Cersei
Mm.
share
Mhm.
a fucking theme. It's just different instruments, but there is like a thing there. And I'm like, where's that story, Jay? Where is Why did you do that? Where's that song?
It oh my gosh, yeah.
And like
They have history.
and then what was the other one that's another one of like the things that I noticed. Oh my god, I'm blanking on the No Longer You. The end of No Longer You
Mm.
matches the end of Would You Fall in Love with Me Again?
Yeah.
Like
And okay,
there's so
so in No Longer You actually like that song is the the like background vocals within
mm-hmm.
this musical are amazing.
Yeah.
Um and like, you know, we've talked a couple times about how like the like when they encountered the like boss battle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um like the Polyphemus that is the
Mm-hmm.
like background vocals, it sounds pretty much exactly the same as the Odysseus within Odysseus when he's killing all the
Yeah.
suitors.
Yeah. Like I definitely thought that I was like I had to listen to that like a couple of times because I was like, this says Polyphemus.
Yeah.
Like that.
And like so within No Longer You, there are background vocals as they're singing, like, I see the sacrifice of man. Um, and it's like Scylla.
Mm-hmm.
And then, sorry, if I'm not singing it, it's hard for me to, like, think of the next thing.
Very good.
But it's like, I see the sacrifice of man. Uh, I see portrayals of betrayal.
Betrayal and a brother's final
And a
stand.
brother's final stand. And then it says, like, mutiny, lightning bolt. Then it says, like, I see you draw your final, or I see you on the brink of death. I see you draw your final breath. And it says, I think the background vocals say, like, hurt Poseidon.
Hurt Poseidon.
And then I see a man who gets to make it home alive.
Yeah.
And it says, kill all the suitors. But it's no longer you. And then it says, Odysseus, Odysseus. It's wild. Like, and again, the animatics, like, if you watch the animatic for No Longer You, like, the, like, I don't know, I don't remember which one Jay himself commissioned, but, like, the background environment of that animatic shows what each of those lines is referring to.
Yep.
It's just so good. Like, it's so good. And again, I'm gonna say it. If you haven't listened to it, you have to go listen to it.
I don't care that you broke your elbow.
I'm gonna say, don't. You have to go listen to it. It's so good.
It's so good. It's so fantastic. And like we could sit here all day talking about like I know we talked mostly about story, which is, you know, what we discuss, books, right? Whatever we discussed, but like musically, like just the connections that this man makes across the entire musical just with the music is like blows my mind. It blows my fucking mind.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I will be right back.
Okay. Hmm?
Sorry, it was my night to do the wake up call.
Oh.
Because normally we do the stream on Wednesdays, so
You're right.
Squish is doing Wednesday nights. But I was like, oh, I could do Thursday. But then we stream tonight. But yeah. It's fine. She's up. We're good.
Good.
But yes. Thank you so much. This is honestly has been one of my favorite streams to do. I mean, I love my book club stream, but this one in particular, like talking about Epic, has been really fun.
Yeah. I think Frankenstein was also
Frankenstein was fun because that book is insane.
Insane, yeah. But I'm glad that you enjoyed the stream, friend.
Yeah, me too. All right. I think that's probably where we'll wrap it up for tonight. Like we said, we could talk about this for
Well,
the whole day.
we'll definitely talk more about this. We'll have another stream on Epic
Yeah,
because, like, I feel like we're gonna
definitely.
listen to it and then find more things to talk about.
Yeah, that VOD is actually on my YouTube channel, which is linked on the panels below. So
Yes, friend, give me your thoughts about Frankenstein.
tell me all of your thoughts about Frankenstein, please.
We can absolutely have a part 2 on Frankenstein.
Oh, 100%. I'll actually read the rest of the book this time. All right. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We are going to be doing a Baldur's Gate 3 stream on Saturday at 4. And I believe Callie is also going to be doing her new outfit reveal on Saturday. I'm not sure what time that will be because she didn't answer me, but we'll figure that out.
Figure that out.
Have a good night, everyone, and I will see y'all on Saturday.
Bye.
Bye.